Hello and welcome to Trellis Studio. I'm Grant Harrison, Vice President for Sustainable Finance and ESG here at Trellis Group, and I'm excited to be joined today by Steve Thomaidis, Sustainability Principal at SAP. Steve, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Grant, thank you so much for having me. I appreciate the time.
Great. Well, as you and studio viewers will know, corporate sustainability can't be done without effective solutions to make targets attainable. So can you start us off at the 30,000-foot view and just describe a bit about the vision that SAP has for sustainability solutions?
Thanks, Grant. I appreciate that. So from a high level, the way SAP looks at this is that you need to look at sustainability solutions from a holistic perspective. And we're grouping things in a few different major categories. And those really are the categories that encompass ESG. We're looking at everything related to climate action solutions, the circular economy, and social responsibility. SAP has a suite of solutions that are helping customers achieve these solutions. And SAP itself is an exemplar in this area, meaning we're well known in the software industry as encompassing all the various different things that are part of this and helping customers guide their journey into the future here.
And sustainability as an outcome is largely, not entirely, but largely about managing carbon. And to stick with the oft-cited business adage, one cannot effectively manage something that isn't effectively measured. And on that note, we've got carbon accounting and carbon counting. What is the importance of the distinction between those two in this space that we're talking about?
So when we talk to customers, where they are right now is that they're struggling to capture their Scope 1, Scope 2, and Scope 3 emissions related to the greenhouse gas protocol. And there's a variety of different frameworks where they have to report these things, whether it be CSRD, whether it be the California regulations. They need to capture Scope 1, what they're burning, Scope 2, what they're buying, and Scope 3, everything else across those 15 categories. So they need to count their carbon. And when we say they're counting their carbon, it means that they need to understand for their entire organization across the greenhouse gas protocol, what is their entire exposure for their carbon footprint. That's carbon counting. Carbon accounting means how are you able to take that and then put that into a business context? The business context means how are we able to look at that by company code, by cost center, by product line, by region? That means how do you take all that carbon counted information and then apply accounting principles to it to move that into carbon accounting? Because that's going to change the way that people are able to analyze that information, but more important, not just analyze it, act on that in the future by understanding the source of it and then tying those sources to strategic priorities in the future.
And what is a carbon accounting ledger, and why is that important to touch on, or what are its benefits in this reporting process that you're referring to here?
Thanks. So when we talk about carbon counting, we've counted all the carbon in the organization. Carbon accounting is saying, how do you take that counted information and apply financial principles to it? So a carbon ledger is saying, we've taken all that information that we've counted and we're applying debits and credits to it and posting that to a ledger. It's not a financial ledger. It's a carbon ledger. Because as we're moving into this world of mandatory reporting as opposed to voluntary reporting, we need to make sure that we are following financial rigor of recording transactions. So we're taking that carbon counted information, posting it to a ledger, and then allowing us to analyze it directly side by side with the financials to be able to give people a view of carbon that they've never had before from the standpoint of performance metrics, cost allocation and budgeting, strategic planning, investor relations, reputation and brand value. By bringing carbon counting to carbon accounting, you're almost looking at it like a parallel to your financial ledger.
And I know from conversations with you before getting on the line here and other colleagues of yours at SAP that your solutions focus on an ERP-centric approach. For those in the studio with us, nodding their head along thinking that sounds right, but somewhat unclear on what that means exactly. Can you expand on that a bit?
So if you were to look at everything that you need to gather from an ESG perspective across environmental, social, governance, across the various different scopes of the greenhouse gas protocol, it's important to think, where does all of that information come from? Most of that information is coming from across your ERP system. So an ERP-centric approach means that this is, when you look at it, this information coming from your ERP system, we're able to then automate more of it, have more of it auditable, attestable, etc. So the concept of an ERP-centric view on sustainability is saying there's an understanding that the vast majority of what you're looking at from a data perspective comes from your ERP system. So it's best to leverage that through your reporting and through your carbon ledger to leverage that and make it easier to report on as you move through time.
I think easier to report on as we move through time is what a lot of sustainability professionals are hoping for in this point in 2024 in this corporate sustainability space. So thank you so much, Steve, for coming to the Trellis Studio and making us all a bit smarter on that topic.
Grant, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate you spending some time with me today.
Great. And you've just heard from Steve Thomaidis, Sustainability Principal at SAP.